First of all, good evening and welcome everyone. Almost 3 months have passed since Israel's dramatic elections, and we are witnessing with this new government massive protests in the streets, increased violence in the West Bank, and radical reforms that the government is trying to get through. And these are the circumstances under which the initiatives that TalkMatters supports are working in. Those are their circumstances, but they're not giving in to. Meeting and building trust between Jews and Arabs is more important than ever. And now, TalkMatters, we have 30 initiatives enabling Palestinians and Israelis to hear each other's stories. And I'm delighted to say that we're expanding, and our latest associate is the Freddie Krivine Tennis Initiative, which has been going over 20 years, bringing Jewish and Arab children together through their interest in tennis. And we have with us here this evening, Jane Krivine, who I want to thank, Jane, you for being here and for all the excellent work that you do. And I'd also like to mention another guest, Gopal Baku, the chairman of the Harrow Interfaith Association here in the UK. Learning about Israel and Palestine is vital in our faith communities, where there is so much confusion about Zionism, anti-Semitism, and anti-Muslim hatred. So thank you, Gopal, for coming to this webinar. And now to the main business of the evening. I've been following the work of the Arava Institute for a long time and really wanted to introduce them to you. Arava is a leading environmental studies and research institute dealing with climate change and water shortage, amongst other things. And I've been particularly interested in how they manage to combine academic excellence with peace building. We have nearly an hour together, so let's get started by listening to the director of the Arava Institute, Dr. Tareq Abu Hamed, who'll introduce himself and his work before handing over to Ghassan Hamed, a current student on the special Arava program, and then to Oz Drumlevich, an alumni of the program. So thank you, and over to you, Tareq.
Thank you, Jenny. It's really great honor and pleasure to be with you this evening. We are very grateful for this opportunity, and thanks to TalkMatters. And for our audience, I would like really to say thank you for taking the time of your day to grace us with your presence. My name is Tareq Abu Hamed. I'm the executive director of the Arava Institute. I joined the institute in 2008 as the director of Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation. I'm with the institute since then. The institute is an academic and research institution that tries to advance cross-border environmental cooperation in the face of the political conflict. Here in this part of the world, and especially these days where we all lack a healthy dialogue, to use science, to use environment as a diplomacy tool, as a dialogue form to bring people together is crucial to have, first of all, a healthy environment and to build an understanding between different communities in the region. As I said, we're an academic institution. 1/3 of our students are Arabic speakers, Israeli Arabs, Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza, Jordanians, Moroccans. This semester we have students from Sudan. We have 1/3 Jewish Israelis and 1/3 international students from the US, Europe, and the rest of the world. The academic program is accredited by Ben Gurion University of the Negev. Students come to the Arava Institute, spend 1 semester, then they go back to their universities. And you can imagine under the current circumstances how difficult it is to put in one classroom a Palestinian who comes from Gaza or a refugee camp in the West Bank or a village in the West Bank, and you put them in the same classroom with a Jewish Israeli who just finished his army. In this dynamic region, we always have a lot of action, a lot of tension, a lot of conflict. And in order to have a healthy academic program, we have what we call the dialogue forum. In this dialogue forum, students talk about religion, politics, the current conflict. They share family stories, they share personal stories, and through this dialogue, they build an understanding of the other. Usually they disagree, but they understand, and that's our method to build trust within our student community. Trust, which is the scarcest resource in this region. And if we try to develop any project, academic program, research project to deal with environmental challenge without building trust with the partners, you cannot implement that. And that's what we do at the Arava Institute. We use the science, we use environment to bring people together, to give them the opportunity to be exposed to each other, to see the human in the other. And once they see that, they build the trust that we need. They build the community that we need. We have in our region more than 1,800 alumni, and I call them actually 1,800 ambassadors of the environment, ambassadors of Israel, ambassadors of the Arava Institute in Jordan, in Palestine, in Morocco, and in many countries around the world. We also a research institution. We do a lot of research related to climate change, renewable energy resources, water management, sustainable agriculture, and we cover the whole spectrum of research, basic research, applied research, research and development, and we also develop technologies to serve the region that we live in. Also in these research centers, most of the research that we conduct has the transboundary aspect. That means we deal with environmental challenges that are shared between Israel and its neighbors. Why do we do that? Because we're all in the same ship. We're all impacted by climate change. Nature knows no borders. Pollution doesn't stop in the checkpoint or in the border. It passes from one country to another. Most of the aquifers in this region are shared between Israel and its neighbors. So it doesn't matter where the pollution starts, it impacts everyone in the region. And that's why we do this work at the Arava Institute, to protect the environment, to use the environment and our environmental projects to build the trust and make this region a better place for everyone. We work within Israel, inside Israel, in the Bedouin communities, in the north. We have projects in the West Bank, we have projects in Gaza, we have projects in Morocco, we have projects in Jordan. And we managed to do this because we are a non-governmental organization, and we work with non-governmental organizations in the region. When we implement projects, we get the approval of the Israeli government, and our partners in Jordan or in the West Bank, they get the approval from their own governments, and we succeed. I'll give you a few examples of projects that we have. The Arava Institute managed to send into Gaza atmospheric water generator. It's a device that produces drinking water from air. It's like the air condition, but it's very efficient and produces almost 5,000 liters of drinking water a day. We managed to send 7 systems into Gaza. All of these systems are installed in hospitals and clinics. All of these projects, again, with the approval of the Israeli army, through our non-governmental organization partners inside Gaza. We managed also to send into Gaza an off-grid wastewater treatment plant. Gaza lacks a lot of electricity, and because they don't have electricity, they cannot treat the wastewater. So what happens to untreated wastewater? They just dump it into the fields, and it infiltrates into the shared aquifer between Israel and Gaza, or they dump it into the Mediterranean and pollutes the Eastern Mediterranean, and that pollution goes to Ashkelon. So the pollution doesn't stay within Gaza, it impacts everyone. And that's why we do these projects. We send this system to treat the wastewater for a certain neighborhood in Gaza, and the treated wastewater is used by a group of women. We do this with Gaza, and you know the political situation and the relationship between Gaza and Israel. It's always a conflict, but we managed, through the trust we built, we managed to implement these projects. During the last war, we've been in touch with our Ghassan partners, asking them about these projects. Are they functioning? Are they doing well? And they said it's a war. We cannot reach them. It's unsafe. Roads are blocked. And the day the war ended, we received photos of people filling water from these systems. And that was a great exposure for this technology that we managed to build inside Gaza Strip. 2 days later, we managed to get 5 requests from 5 different municipalities in Gaza asking for more systems. The success of the Arava Institute is not to build the project in Gaza. The success is to keep that dialogue, that communication channel open with Gaza, with our Palestinian partners, even during the toughest time of the year, during the war. And that's how we managed to implement the projects that we have. We work with former diplomats in the region. We work with the local governments to really solve challenges that face this tiny, nice region. As I said, nature knows no borders. Pollution passes from one place into another, and we cannot wait for a real peace to take place in order to deal with the environmental challenges that we have. We all face significant threats of the climate change, heat waves, cold waves. The Eastern Mediterranean is heating up. The acidity is going up, and we see a lot of invasive species here in this region. Scarcity of water, increase in the temperature here in general. And in order to prevent or to adapt or help people and communities and farmers to adapt to climate change, to continue what they do today, the agricultural activity, we have to work together. We have to develop technologies to help these farmers, these communities, these municipalities to deal with the climate change. Climate change is not only an environmental challenge, it's also a first-degree security challenge. If farmers leave their jobs, leave their lands, we will face significant or huge waves of climate immigrants from the Delta in Egypt, from the Jordan Valley in the West Bank, or in Israel, from the northern parts of the country. And that's why we do this work here at the Arava Institute, to use environment, to use science, which is a global language, to bring people together. And as I always say, the most important product of the Arava Institute is actually the alumni of the Arava Institute, where they become really environmental leaders, really community leaders, that they help their communities and they change the realities on the ground. Most of them stay in the environmental field. They initiate startups, renewable energy companies, water companies. We have many professors in this region, in Jordan, Israel, Palestine, that they are the alumni of the Arava Institute. So it's like a multiplier effect. One person doesn't stay one person. They impact a lot of communities. They impact a lot of people in this region. And this is what is lacking. Jenny, you started talking about the conflict and the political situation here in this region. And in my opinion, the most significant challenge that we have here is the lack of dialogue, the lack of giving people the opportunity to see the human in the other. Peace is not easy, especially in this part of the world. Peace is it's messy, it's fragile, it's hard to get, even harder to hold on into. But again, with giving people the opportunity to talk to each other, to see the human in the other, you see the change. You see the change in the communities, within the students group, how they change their perspectives, how they change their behavior. And when it happens, it's really powerful. I experience that. I see that within the students' communities and the communities that we work with in the region. I'll tell you a story, and I will finish with that. Then introduce Ghassan and Oz. In our academic program, as I said, we have the dialogue forum, and we have what we call the multi-narrative trip, where we take our students to Jerusalem. They talk to right-wing, left-wing, Palestinians, Israelis, villages, refugee camps, and we take them to the Holocaust Museum, to Yad Vashem. And in one of the trips, we had an Israeli student, a woman, that she told her Palestinian friend, Palestinian from Gaza, she said, you know what, I did my national service as a tour guide in Yad Vashem. Let me give you this tour. She takes him, they had the tour in Yad Vashem, and at the end of the tour, he looks at her and he says, you know what, now I understand why you Jewish people needed a state. This is from a Gazan student who never saw anything outside of Gaza. The first time he left Gaza, he came to the Arava Institute. He said, I understand. Maybe he disagrees, but he understands. And this is what we need in this city. Give people the opportunity to talk and to understand each other. I will stop here, and when we come to the questions, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have. And it's now really great pleasure and honor to introduce Ghassan. Ghassan is a Palestinian. He's a current student at the Arava Institute. This is his second semester with us. He's a Palestinian landscape designer, passionate about beekeeping and organic farming. He aims to spark environmental and sustainability projects in his community in Palestine, and currently is working on solving one of the major challenges in South and West Bank, which is the electronic waste in the southern parts of the West Bank. Ghassan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tareq.
Thank you, Dr. Tareq. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, TalkMatters. For me, talk is crucial at all times. And it's actually, for me, is a way to protest at crucial times. We are in need to talk and to have conversations and to have open communication, especially in these times that we're going through at the moment. So, yeah, thanks for the introduction, Dr. Tareq. I'm a Palestinian organic farmer. I'm passionate about beekeeping and landscape design. I come from South Hebron village of Yatta. It's 12 kilometers south of Hebron. And my village is close to Beersheba city in Israel. It's an interesting story talking about how I got involved in all of this. But it happened when I was actually working inland. I was engaged in a lot of projects, food production mainly, organic farming. I had to deal with land in general, to the management of land and water to produce food feasibly. And then I developed an interest. I looked at stuff from a different point of view. I thought that I saw the big piles of plastics that and nylon that farms are using and are wasting. And I asked myself, like, what, in order to produce food for humans, there is a very big impact on the ecosystems and the habitats of other animals. So that kind of sparked the interest that I started thinking to myself, is there another way? And back then, I kind of extrapolated that point when I thought about nature, and I actually objected that on the conflict in general. I started thinking that the environmental challenges and the political challenges that we are facing in this region are cross-boundary in nature. I agree totally with Dr. Tareq. Whenever a problem that happens in the West Bank, in Gaza, Israel, Jordan, it starts from somewhere and it ends somewhere else. And the only logical way for me to think about solutions, and I was really interested in solutions at that point, was to actually be stoic. Be stoic about things going on around me. I was thinking that if we are having this kind of challenges, political, social, environmental, we must partner up with neighbors. We must think about how could we like provide ourselves a healthy lifestyle with well-being and dignity, but without actually jeopardizing the future of next generations. And from that point, I started searching all over the place for initiatives, for projects, for academic centers. And it was very interesting because I started meeting people in Israel, Palestine, Jordan, who are alumni of the Arava Institute. And each one of them had an interesting story. Each one of them had different background than the other. And they spoke about this place. They spoke about this island of hopes, as they described it. And they were in good connection with each other. Each one of them was really willing to do everything in their power to help the alumni. Each one of them was looking at themselves as a pin in a network of change makers. And thinking about that, I also thought that no matter how minimal an individual can make a change, if you take the total of that change you have in a network of change makers, the total change is great, actually. And the Arava Institute for me seemed like a place that gathered Palestinians, Israelis, internationals to research and to get to know more about the environmental challenges, both academically and socially. I'm speaking from my unit. I'm a current student this semester. So I'm speaking from my unit, and I'm actually just surrounded by students from Jewish American students, Jewish Israelis, Palestinians from Gaza, Jordanians, Moroccans, and they are very, very different. Even sometimes I just look at a group of students talking with each other and I can hear probably 5 languages. But it all happens organically, and it seems harmonical because all of them have this good intentions that the institute is interested overall to take these good intentions and shape them and kind of direct them towards cooperation, towards peace building, towards having an actual voice and an actual say and an actual change in the real world. So I'm actually having the best time of my life right now. I'm studying all the time and I'm socializing. Sometimes it's overwhelming. Today we just had the dialogue, but it's that kind of busy that you feel when it's that achieving busy. It's not that overworking busy. It's that hopeful, positive, impactful busy that really gets me really satisfied every day before going to sleep. At the moment, I got really interested in the problem of electronic waste in the West Bank. I'm doing an independent study on it in collaboration with an Israeli student. He's approaching it from a social, political aspect, and I'm approaching it from an economical and efficiency aspect. I hope for this semester that we will come up with an actual solution to this problem, so we could have an actual impact on the ground. The most thing that I enjoy about the program is actually, and this might be controversial because it's kind of sometimes could be an overwhelming activity, but it's actually the dialogue forum. Like we are living kind of, the institute offers the students the campus, they live with each other, the units are mixed between different nationalities, and the aim of that, how I see it, is to actually encourage rehumanizing of the other. Like we live in political realities where as a Palestinian, Israelis are soldiers and Hebrew is a checkpoint language. So we are living in the campus where we're kind of rehumanizing and kind of getting to know each other's personally and hear stories. And in the dialogue form, about 3 hours a week, we kind of get back to the ground and speak about stuff, like just put our emotions, our feelings about the conflict, about religion. We share our personal stories. We have 3 hours of that each week. And for me, just seeing the dynamics, just seeing people kind of breaking that comfort zone, breaking that don't trust the others, breaking that you should defend yourself, and kind of taking that and putting their heart on the table, is actually my personal favorite part about the Institute. Yeah, it's I'm actually getting emotional about it because we just got the dialogue forum today, and it was quite nice.
Thank you, Ghassan. It's yeah. And now let's listen from Oz. Oz, he was a student, I think, a year ago in the Arava Institute. He's an Israeli Jewish student. Currently, he's doing his first degree in the Geography and Environmental Studies in Haifa University. He's a nature enthusiast. He's a people person. He's also an alum of the United World College in Dilijan. He's a youth guide and believer of the great power of communities to facilitate change we seek to see in this world. Oz, the floor is yours. And you have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Tareq.
Yes.
8 minutes?
Yes.
No problem. So thank you for the introduction. Thank you, Jenny, for the platform and everyone for being here. And thank you, Ghassan, for what you just shared. Actually, it brought me back to those moments after dialogue where everyone is still caught by these very powerful waves of emotions that no matter where you stand on the political spectrum, it's always very, very stirring. At least it was for me personally. So I would begin with a little bit of a background on myself. I am from a kibbutz near Jerusalem called Ramat Rachel, about maybe 500 meters from you, Tareq. Correct? So growing up in Israel, you feel the Israeli society very much a dominant part of your identity. And I think I will begin with my journey that led me to the Arava Institute at about of the age of 13, where I started gaining more political awareness and being a little bit less sheltered from my parents about the violence going on around us. I guess you all are aware of these violent days that we're going through in Israel today. For me, this is maybe an escalation of something that started long, long before. And especially living in the area of Jerusalem, you face this tension on a daily basis. And very quickly, I became overwhelmed with the amount of violence within my community, within my society, and all around the region. And it very much made me scared. So the feeling of fear of the other, of fear of change, of fear of any kind of position that would make me vulnerable was very much dominant. And together with that, I'm a very big nature enthusiast. So I love spending time in nature. I love feeling awe of natural landscapes. I love seeing wildlife in their habitat. It really touches me in a very deep place. And growing up and traveling more within Israel, outside of Israel, I could feel this violence infiltrating to every little part of the landscape, whether it's natural resources in the Dead Sea or pollution in the Mediterranean, if it's forested areas being exploited and trashed, whether it's natural landscapes or agricultural fields becoming concrete jungles. This violence is everywhere. And I feel like something that was repeated here in the conversation is that when I did find out about the Arava Institute, I really felt like it's something different. I know many dialogue programs. I know many programs that deal with the conflict as a political conflict, as a conflict of human beings. But never before have I seen an institute having the perspective of seeing the victims of this conflict, not only to be the humans in this region, but also our environment, which is suffering from this ongoing war, I would say. And this really led me towards the Arava Institute, and I'm very, very glad that it did, because throughout this experience, with all of its components, whether it's the academic knowledge and scientific research, and all the very inspiring actions of the Arava Institute, or the social aspect of meeting people and getting close to people who would otherwise be either strangers in the street or enemies that I would be feeling fear towards and trying to resent, or living in the desert of the southern Arava in Israel, which is an incredible natural environment. All of this together helped me digest a little bit of this experience of living within this violence and feeling those intense feelings of fear, and helped me replace them with something much more optimistic, I would say, and that is love. And it's maybe very cliche to say, but I feel like the work that's being done within the Arava Institute, whether it's from the individual level of exploring your own past and your own story and building your own identity, to later on communication workshops and having classes with people that come from completely different backgrounds, or the tours that we do in the region and the incredible speakers that we meet. Many times I would feel an overwhelming caption of love and feeling that I would love to connect with the people around me and to give my input and to really to benefit from that communication channel, which is something that is very, very rare in this region. And I would go on to talk a bit about the alumni network that was referred to here, which is very spectacular to me. You know, in these ages of big political change, not only in this region, but all over the world, we see nation states and we see unions of nations breaking apart and people trying to find their own affiliation to a group, to an ethnic group, to a cultural group, to an ideological group, trying to look for differences and things that separate us. I see this alumni network as really a community, although virtual, and it is spread geographically across the globe, but somehow this connection to those people, whether they were with me in my semester or not, is very, very powerful for me. And it really is building a community and the people that I can feel myself a part of on many, many levels, of inspiring people, of people who are actual change makers in their reality, starting from themselves and their own communities and surroundings, to people making startups and helping African communities to produce biogas from their agricultural residues. So like really felt myself wanting to be a part of this community. And now 1 year after my studying in the Arava, I participated in a seminar also run by the Arava Institute of Young Professionals, meeting again this community, meeting again those people. And currently we are focused on a project of bringing public health services to communities in the South Hebron Hills, which is in the southern part of the West Bank. Communities who are vulnerable to climate change, who are vulnerable to the reactions of the environment towards our violence, towards our gas emissions, towards our pollution. Environments that live in rural areas and do not have shading, do not have basic services, not by Israel, not by Palestinian authorities, that many times find a lot of difficulty in reaching them with those services due to the political situation. So I would say, like, to conclude my part, that I'm very thankful for my experience in the Arava Institute, and with all my heart I can say that it changed me as an individual. It changed my course of life, and it put me on a path that I can really feel day by day that is making change in this region. It's building trust, it's building resilience within communities, and overall is a beacon of hope in a very gloomy climate, especially political climate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Oz.
Thank you. Thank you, Ghassan. Thank you, Tareq. And now we have a little time for your questions. I would like to know really from Ghassan and from Oz how your friends and family respond to you being on the Arava program. Maybe we could start with Ghassan. Thank you.
That's a good question, rather an interesting one. My family in Hebron, in Yatta, is more of an optimistic family. I come from family of farmers, actually. And personally, my family were before the war of 1967, like my grandfather used to work with land all the time. And then my father started working in construction. So they are more or less politically, how you say it, like they're optimistic. They're looking for solutions in the future. When they know about me joining the Arava Institute, for them, first of all, it was a great opportunity to gain an education, meaningful education and a meaningful experience. There was some, they were a little bit afraid about the point of me sleeping with Israelis, like in the same campus, in the same units. but I kind of understood their fears and their emotions, and I told them that they can depend on me. And I promised my mother that I will call her once every 2 days to let her know how it feels like. And she's been like really satisfied with that. She right now she knows it's actually possible to share buildings and campuses with the Israelis. My friends from the West Bank, of course, part of my friends, I got mostly I got positive reactions because my generation, it's a generalization, but the people that I know, that I surround myself with, people that studied with me in the West Bank and Hebron, they are also this young generation of people who are really fed up with the conflict, and they are really looking forward to end it and thinking positively for a better future. I got some negative reactions to it also, but I take that responsibility for me to actually bring the message of the Institute back to the friends who gave me negative reactions, and explain and tell them about my experience, and tell about my very meaningful relationships with the Israelis and the internationals here.
Thank you. And Oz, your family and your friends' response.
Yeah, so first of all, before I came to the Arava Institute, coming out of a 3-year national service, I was very afraid to begin an academic education program and committing myself to that long. So in that sense, my family was very happy that I did find the chance to start my academic path with this honey bait of doing just 1 semester with a very serious academic program with an affiliation to Ben-Gurion University. So in that way, they were glad. And I would go back to this feeling of fear that I mentioned, and the violence that comes out of this fear. Having finished my semester, and throughout the semester, I went to visit many of my friends in the West Bank. It can be all the way from 1 kilometer from my house into the city of Bethlehem to visit my friend in Bet Zachor, or spending the night in Ramallah with a friend after a day spent in Nablus city in the West Bank. So I would say that it was hard for them to understand how I managed to walk those streets and to meet those people without fearing my life, without feeling like I am in high risk of being abused or aggressively attacked. And I would say that with the confidence that the program gave me and the great friendships that I gained, I managed to let go of this fear, and I can already feel the nuances and the change that it makes within my friends and my family. Understanding that violence is violence, and it happens in all societies, in all places, unfortunately, but everywhere that there is violence, there is also hope, and there are also people who are loving and caring and breaking this screen, I would say.
Thank you, Oz. There's a question here. Are there any female students? And Tareq has kindly answered that in the chat box. So he says that there are at least 50%, and it's absolutely important for them. 80% of the staff are female, and 90% of the management are female. Thank you, Tareq, for that. And then there's another, well, more like it's a response, saying that Ghassan and Oz obviously got a lot out of this mixed cultural environment, and how would you suggest that the environment and the dialogue it facilitates could best be scaled up? Maybe that's one for you, Tareq. Could you unmute yourself, please? Thank you.
And Ghassan and Oz, feel free to add anything. Look, it's again, it's through the dialogue, through sharing these experiences, personal stories, family stories, creating what we call a safe space for the students to talk. Maybe the terminology of safe space in other campuses, that you don't talk politics or you don't share your political beliefs. But here at the Arava Institute, the safe place means that you can share anything, you can say anything, and being sure that this will not impact your presence or your academic progress at the Arava Institute. This dialogue forum is facilitated by 3 facilitators, 1 Palestinian, 1 Israeli, and 1 international. And this also creates a kind of trust and open space for the students to share what they believe with these facilitators.
Mm-hmm. But the question is actually focusing on how your project could be scaled up, how there could be possibly more projects like yours in other places in Israel-Palestine. Is that?
Yeah, look, yeah, it's scalable, and this is something that we actually working on now. We are expanding our campus to have a larger impact on the region. Currently we have a capacity for 60 students per semester, and we want to grow the first phase to 100 and to 150 students. We are working with our Palestinian partners to establish a kind of another Arava Institute campus in the West Bank with the Palestinian non-governmental organizations. We work with a lot of young non-governmental organizations in the region that they also deal with similar issues: environment, dialogue, peace building, to strengthen them. We're creating what we call the Young Leadership Forum, and through one of our programs, and we call it the Next Gen Climate Change Makers, to create the climate leaders of this region. Through our alumni network, we have like seed funding to support joint projects between Israeli-Palestinian alumni, Israeli-Jordanian alumni, to create startups, companies, joint projects, to keep the connection and also to have a change on the ground.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tareq. And the next question is, you talked about getting to know the other. How much did you learn about the other in your time at school and your time after school? Perhaps we could start with you, Ghassan.
As I mentioned before, that we are living with the other in the campus. So on a daily basis, we are organizing the unit.
I think the question is, when you were at school, how much did you learn, and any after-school activities?
Like in high school, you mean? And like
yes, high school.
So there wasn't in. I studied in a Palestinian school in Yatta, and there wasn't. There wasn't any information about the other. It was kind of absent. There was some kind of education. It's called civil education. So we learned about Israel as a state. We never learned anything about the Israeli society. So actually that worked in my case, that actually it sparked my curiosity. I really wanted, because you cannot just like ignore that. Like I'm like, whenever I go to the highway, I see Israelis. So I always wanted to learn more about the other, but it just wasn't in school.
Okay, thank you. And what about Oz in your school and after school activities?
I would say that history is written by the victors, and in school we learn a lot about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and strategies, on military operations, on social and geopolitical movement, but we learn it from a very narrow narrative. So even if our teachers would try to open this discussion up, the Israeli education system very much takes you to have a lot of faith in the Israeli Zionist narrative. So growing up in that, I knew that the other is there. I would ride the buses with them. I would see them in the public spaces. I would breathe the same air as them. I would see them from my window, but I rarely meet the other. And I feel like in the Arava Institute especially, hearing the same history that I learned all my life from so many different angles, not even going to big stories, but just personal stories of where were you during that time? Where was your family during that time? Exploring the history of my friends. I realized that the other, just like me, is a part of a bigger story, which is a part of a bigger story, which is a part of a bigger story. But in the end, we're all just like individuals who would like to live our lives happily. So in that sense, the other is anyone that is not me, and not necessarily Palestinian or Arab or American, but just someone who is sharing a space with me in that time. And I hope I managed to answer the question.
Thank you very much, Oz. And we're going to end with just two comments that we've got. One is a question and one is a comment. I'm delighted to be able to listen to all these presentations. Living in France with the challenge of the public often being wary of English language presentations, would it be possible to set up something similar with presentations in French? Tareq, what do you think of that?
Tareq, do you speak French?
Very, very, very little. However, we'll be more than happy to arrange something in French. One of our dialogue forum is French, and we have also French alumni that we can arrange such a presentation in French and talk to our alumni. And if I know that we are coming to the end, I just want to add, the Arava Institute is located south in Israel, in a kibbutz, in the middle of nowhere. And these students live 24/7 together for almost a year of full academic semester. They go to the same dining room in the kibbutz, they go to the same dormitories, they share rooms, they sleep in the dorms, and they go to the same classroom. And this makes a lot of difference. It's a full-time academic program, and during these months they have a lot of time to show their real faces. And it's a long-term program. It's not like for a week or 10 days, which I call a honeymoon program. No, this is like real life. They live together for at least 3-4 months together, and this is how they build the trust and understanding.
Thank you. Thank you. And another comment was that people have been delighted to hear about the work of the Arava community and would like to spread the word. And when we send the recording, of course, we will send a link to your website, and so that you can carry on this. A last comment, thank you, and I will reiterate this. Thank you to all the guest speakers. Very informative and inspiring projects. It is a beacon example that friendships and the cultural diversity of students via dialogue and shared projects and on the same campus provide me with hope. It transcends the political Zionist extreme views, the extreme narrative, and a big thank you. And I would like to reflect and echo that. It's been the most enlightening hour. You have been so open with your personal stories, as well as learning a lot more about the Arava Institute. And I'm really very grateful to you and to you all for coming to hear about it. It is really important that we support these people who are doing the hard work, the important work of getting building trust, getting Jews and Arabs to listen to each other, to tell their stories, whether it be, as we heard today, through the environment, a mutual interest, or through music, art, whatever it be. So I would very much hope that you will support this institution and the many others that we hope to bring to show you, and the ones that you've seen before. I'd like to end by thanking you three great speakers, Tareq, Ghassan, and Oz. You've been really inspirational. Thank you. And to thank Daniel, who has, without him, that we would not be able to do this, for all the work he does on the computer, techie side of everything. Thank you. If you do want to stay on, we'll keep the Zoom open for another 10 minutes if you want to speak to speakers or ask them a question, respond, whatever. But otherwise, thank you all very much. Good night, and I hope you join us again soon. Thank you.